This is only a test. Welcome back, I am Captain Xavier, and today I'm going to be answering a pile of questions from you guys because I hit 20 subscribers and people had asked for a Q&A, so it seemed like the thing to do. Hopefully I can make it through most of them before the snark takes over or I lose the will to live. We'll see what happens. I do have some nice herbs root beer to fortify myself. And if things get too bad, I have Powerade, so hopefully I will last. Patrick Warnars asks, why do you consume so much orange soda and Skittles? Well, 1, because they're delicious, and 2, low blood sugar. Atrix45, what was your proudest Nerf modification? P.S. Keep up the good work. Well, Ire. Ire is still my favorite. I haven't built anything that was more complicated or fun or interesting than her. The Stampede Strike I did was probably a close second as far as things that I was really proud of how it turned out. Gabriel Sokolaj. By the way, I am going to mispronounce all of your names. Gabriel Sokola, what is your favorite integration? Keep up the excellent videos. My favorite is probably still Hellhound by Mr. Nathan. It's just so beautifully done. Cameron Stell, what got you doing Nerf, and what is your favorite or most interesting mod that you've done so far? HVZ is actually what got me into Nerf. I was in my last semester at the University of Idaho, and they were doing an HVZ, and I couldn't get into that one because I didn't find out about it until after it already started. And since it was my last semester, I couldn't get into the next game. So we talked to the moderators and volunteered to do NPC characters. And thus were born the Black Knights, which are kind of a cross between humans and zombies in that if a zombie tags them, it counts as a kill for the zombies, so they get fed, since zombies have to get so many kills or they starve. But we actually don't turn into zombies, we just respawned. We were essentially the NPC Marines is what we sold ourselves as. So we were renewable firepower for the humans, renewable food for the zombies. The humans loved us because we'd stand and fight the zombies while they escaped. The zombies loved us because we'd stand and fight until we ran out of ammo and died because we didn't care. We were just going to respawn. So it was a win-win for everybody, and everyone had a lot of fun. And we've been doing that at WSU now for years, and that's had so much fun with that. That's why I continue to do this. That's why my loadout is geared towards HVZ. And since I'm too far away to go to all of WSU's HVZs, I'm now starting to rework my arsenal and my gear towards Nerf Wars, because it's a completely different game and requires different weapons. So we'll get into that. As far as my favorite and most interesting, once again, Ire is still my favorite. Thomas Eisted, what was your first mod on a Nerf gun? Well, once again, Ire. I bought the Stampede that Ire is made out of for that first HVZ. I also bought a barricade that I think I still have. And the first mod I did was just a cosmetic mod, just painting it. Then I tried a voltage mod, a very crude one. And then I added the Horror Maverick as its first underslung attachment. And then as soon as I got the Titan, that went in there. And then more and more and more. And I've been just adding on to it ever since. But Ire was actually my first. Nathan Beck asks, if you think so, what advantage do you think the Stampede has over the Rapid Strike? There's a lot of these kinds of questions in here, and they're going to have a similar answer, and it depends on what game you're playing. I consider the Stampede to be a better HVZ gun because it has a more controllable rate of fire. The Rapid Strike has as easy to make have a really, really high rate of fire, which is good in a Nerf war when you need to spam a target and you can throw a whole 18-round mag at one target and have that be worth it if they're a key enemy player. Because the rounds are usually so short, you're going to get your ammo back. Whereas in most HVZ missions that I've played, you don't get to pick your ammo up. The zombies pick up the ammo, and you don't get it back until the end of the mission. So you only get the ammo you started with, and so you need to make every round count. You can't afford to have a gun that fires 3 darts with 1 trigger pull, because then you put 3 darts in one zombie, and you don't have enough darts for the next zombie. So that's why I still use Ire in HVZ, because she can fire full auto, but she fires semi-auto very, very well. Whereas the Rapid Strike, it's difficult to have a modded Rapid Strike that only fires one dart at a time unless you can get a select fire kit, which is a whole different level of modifications. So Stampede is also spring-powered, which isn't necessarily it's an advantage in certain ammo types. I've discovered certain off-brand ammos don't play nice in flywheels. The heads are too large or too rigid, and they'll jam in a flywheel, whereas since the Stampede is a Springer, it doesn't have that problem. So those are my thoughts on Rapid Strike versus Stampede. Joe Jassett asks, Strife or Desolator? Well, once again, it depends on what you're planning to do with it. The Strife is a pistol. Truly a pistol. So you can do like what I did and make thigh rigs for it and use them as secondaries, as sidearms. Whereas the Desolator, having that built-in stock, doesn't holster quite as well because the stock's sticking up and it makes it a little bit more awkward. The Desolator is a beautiful blaster. I love how compact it is, how thin it is. The feel of it is fabulous. I do want to get one and mod it up and paint it up, just because it's a fabulous little SMG. Now you can make a Strife into an SMG, obviously, just by adding a stock, and if you really want a short foregrip or one of the short barrels. But the Desolator has it all built in, which just makes it nice and svelte. John Mesolidius, that is an awesome last name. Can you make a long shot mod guide? Yes. Yes, I can. And I will someday when I actually get around to modding one. Stinge Fuckert. What is your favorite flywheel blaster, and what is the best flywheel blaster to begin modding? The Strife and the Strife. I like the Strife because of the modularity. Once again, I like it because you can holster it. I like that it's semi-automatic as opposed to fully automatic. And it's one of the simplest ones. It's small, so it's easy to get apart. The internals are very simple, and it's easy to throw either 130 motors in there, upgrade the flywheel cage, the switches, all of that. It's a good place to start learning to modify flywheels. Paper Guide asks, what Nerf gun have you worked on modded the most besides Ire? By the way, you are my all-time favorite Nerf YouTuber, and congrats on the sub milestone, Chaylo. The gun that I've worked on the most other than Ire, probably my modular Stampede, the one I shortened and added a barrel and a stock attachment to. That one took a fair amount of work, and I've tinkered with it a couple of times. So, yeah. Nolan Calfoot asks, if you had to have one Nerf YouTuber to be on your team and watch your back in glorious warfare with zombies, who would it be? Honestly, probably Out of Darts with his proton pack, because that thing would just never run out of ammo. DJ Pool, why did you start YouTube? I actually had been wanting to do a YouTube channel for a while because I had so much Nerf stuff, but I didn't really have a good camera and didn't really have any real understanding of how it all worked. And then I went to the Pacific Northwest War and ran into Walcom S7, and he saw my loadout and thought it was the coolest thing ever and did a video and posted it, and it got ridiculous numbers of views. And so that was the final shove to get me to do it, because after he posted that, I ended up with like 750 subscribers on my channel, and I'd never uploaded a single video, and I felt bad about it, that there are all these people going, do videos, we want to see more of your stuff, and I was like, okay. So I finally did. Chris Craft, what do you think about reshells? Some reshells I really like. I especially liked when they went from the N-Strike line to the N-Strike Elite line and redid all the internals, got rid of all of the reverse plungers and went to direct plungers. That was excellent. Some of the Strife reshells I really like. I really like the Demolisher. That was one of the few blasters that I actually bought new when it first came out. A lot of the other Strife reshells I'm not as big a fan. The Modulus is much more bulky. It doesn't holster well, so it's not as good in my opinion. The Desolator, however, I do like. I don't like that it's not modular, but I like the feel of it anyway. So the half a dozen different, 30 some odd different jolt reshells they have, they're neat. I've got a couple of them. Things like the Alpha Trooper getting reshelled, I liked that. Some of the things like the difference between the Sweet Revenge and the Hammer Shot, you could argue that they're reshells of each other, and I like both of those. So I'm a fan. I like the variety. Epic Craft Plays. Will you do a workshop tour and a Lego room tour in the future? Yes. Yes, I will. Sergeant Serendipity asks, how many jolts does Walcom S7 have? He has 35 plus a big shot, if that counts. How tall are you? I am approximately 5'11". What is the square root of pi? I haven't the foggiest idea. Pi being irrational, it's not going to square root evenly. Joshua Krieg, in your opinion, what blaster do you think has the best cosmetics / looks the best? Oh, I really couldn't tell you. If you're talking about stock Nerf blasters, there isn't really one that truly stands out as being just a fantastic look. I've always liked the look of the Stampede because it's a full-sized assault rifle looking blaster, and I've always liked the Strife just because I kind of like the angular, very German engineering looking look of the entire N-Strike line. But at the same time, I also like the Sweet Revenge because of all the curves, and it paints up so beautifully. So as far as other people's cosmetic mods, the Hellhound is still really high on my list of beautiful cosmetic work. So, yeah. Blake Dickey. How do you get all your blasters and you are awesome? The vast majority of my blasters, at probably 75% at least, came from Goodwill. That's why I do those Goodwill runs. That's why whenever I happen to be around a Goodwill, I just go ahead and stick my head in, because you never know what you're going to find. I have gotten stuff off Craigslist. I have gotten stuff off eBay. I have bought stuff new, but the vast majority came from Goodwill. I also do keep my eye out for Amazon sales, because, occasionally, suddenly you'll find Strifes for $6 and you just order a crate of them. So, things like that. The Outcasts Miner asks, do you like stuff? Yes, I do like stuff. I also, on occasion, like things. The Flack Man asks, I have multiple questions. Feel free to answer one. Will you do an Arsenal video? People keep asking for an Arsenal video, and I'm not entirely sure what they mean. Do they want me to show every single blaster in my shop? Because that would require me to take them out of bins and put them back in, and that doesn't sound like fun. If you just want me to go over my whole wall, yeah, I will probably do one of those at some point. I've basically been going through them one at a time, trying to get through everything that I've built so far. A couple of them still need to get modded, so they're just not worth showing at the moment. But at some point, I probably could show my whole wall of black and orange, now that it's all nicely organized. His next question, can you please do a personal top 10/5 Nerf blasters list? No, I really don't want to do that kind of review. I have avoided doing reviews in general, largely because I don't think my opinion should really influence anybody. And because my opinions are always going to be, there is always a good use for a blaster. Every blaster has its place. Any blaster can be used successfully if you are skilled enough. I have seen people take the field with a Jolt against a fully modded Rapid Strike and win because they were better nerfers. Dependence on the weapon tends to lead to a lack of developing skills. I actually highly recommend occasionally taking the field with a blaster that you know is inferior, just to, one, remind you that this is a game and that you should be having fun. Two, to help you develop those skills, ducking under cover, dodging, waiting for the right moment, reloading quickly. Those little things that tend to get missed when you've got, a 35-round drum and a modded Rapid Strike and you're just spamming darts across the field. And it's also a good reminder that not everybody has a fully modded blaster, and it's not always fun to be the one guy who doesn't have the fully modded blaster. And I think you should every once in a while play with a stock blaster against modded blasters, just to remind yourself what it's like so that you're not being a jerk to the new guy. So, there's that. Final question, can you please make me a Straven? No. I do not make Stravens. I believe Stravens are a heresy, and I don't like them. If you really want a magazine holding stock on a Strife, there's at least 3 different stocks that hold magazines now. So just get one of those and quit destroying Ravens. Here's another one of these. Papa Mick asks, hammer shot versus strong arm. I actually just had this discussion with Walcom, and if you watched Walcom's live stream of his mod party last night, we discussed this in length. Once again, I believe the 2 blasters have completely different purposes. And I think Nerf, whether on purpose or by accident, marketed them correctly, because they made the hammer shot a zombie strike blaster. And I do believe that the hammer shot is the better blaster for HVZ, because you can use 2 of them at the same time, easily. Now, yes, you can dual wield strong arms, and if you practice really, really hard, you could probably get good at it. You can prime them either with the handles of the other one, you can prime them just by, hooking them on your tack gear. If you really wanted to, you could hook lanyards onto them and hook them to something, so you prime them just by punching forward. I used to do that with Mavericks. It works better with strong arms because they have slam fire, but the hammer shot is just easier because it's thumb prime. You can just keep priming and shooting. And so for HVZ, I consider them to be the better blaster for that reason. Whereas the strong arm I consider to be a much better secondary sidearm in a Nerf war, because first off, they can generally be modded to have better range, but more importantly, they have slam fire, which is good in a Nerf war. Once again, because as I stated with the Rapid Strike, you can slam fire and fire a whole wall of darts at one opponent and probably hit them. Whereas you don't want to do that in an HVZ, because then you shoot one zombie 5 times and have 1 round left for the next 6. So controlled fire is better in HVZ, whereas the ability to spam darts is valuable in a Nerf war. So that's my thought on those 2. Hario338 asks, what burger is the best burger? Well, the best burger I've ever had is actually one that I make and refer to as my Uber burger, because I'm a huge nerd. And the Uber burger is a square hamburger that is about probably 1/3 of a pound of hamburger, maybe a little bit less. And I cook it square because I then put what I refer to as cloth of bacon on it, which is you take 3 long, thin strips of bacon, cut them in half, and then weave them into a 3x3 grid of bacon, and cook that. And then between the burger and the bacon, you put a slice of extra sharp white Tillamook cheddar, and then on top of the bacon, extra sharp orange cheddar, and then you put it all on a nice French toast, or French bread that's been toasted, and you eat it with a good root beer. The leaner the beef, the better. If I could get elk, I would do it with elk, but I haven't been able to get a hold of any elk burger in a while. If anybody has any elk burger, don't ship it to me. It's perishable. Jack Soley, question. Why is your content so good and your mods even better? Well, because I'm me. Mace Edge? Maquillage? The Lord of Memes. How did your love of Lego start? I was given Lego as a small child and I was hooked. Tiger Foam. Chaylo, why are the cops always chasing you? Explain! Well, because I'm a rebel. Kate McCoon asks, have you ever played Overwatch? No. First-person shooters make me motion sick. It's referred to as simulation sickness. I can watch it for about 5 seconds and then I break out in a cold sweat, get nauseous, and get a splitting headache. So I don't play first-person shooters much. Brando Nerf. Potatoes. In what form do you like them the most? Mashed. Smothered in gravy. Owen Bowley asks, what kind of car do you drive? I drive a Chevy Trailblazer. Be gone! Bipedal Narwhal. What was the first blaster you ever owned? Oddly, a Stampede and a Barricade. Jedi Master 150. Chaylo, what is your favorite blaster in stock form, and what is your favorite blaster when modified? Probably the Strife and the Strife, actually. I'm a big fan of the Strife. Cypress Gaming. What video games have you played, if you played, and which one was your most favorite? I started playing video games back in the Windows 3.11 days, and I played games like Temple Dark Moon, Eye of the Beholder, Battlezone. When we finally, well, Battlezone was the one we got when my dad got a computer for work that was, I think, Windows 95, and it came with a bunch of games because it was a gateway. And I got Age of Empires and Battlefront and Heavy Gear, and loved those kinds of games. I like mech games. I like flight sims are my favorite. My favorite game probably of all time was TIE Fighter. I started with X-Wing, and then when TIE Fighter came out, liked TIE Fighter way better. Much prefer the Empire. I liked X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and I liked X-Wing Alliance, though I wish they came out with an Imperial version of that. I didn't like the storyline much, but the gameplay was better. Currently, my game of choice is Elite Dangerous, because it's the best flight sim, space sim that I currently know of. Commander Dante, Captain Xavier, I have one question for your Q&A, and it is cake or death? Cake, please. Hopefully we're not out of cake, because if we're out of cake, I'm going to have to ask for the chicken. Yeah. Katie Wolf 27. I saw Wacom's review on the Tri-Strike and was wondering how hard you think it would be to turn a rocket launcher part of that blaster into a trigger version instead of the current pump version and still keep the base look. I'd have to actually really look at it, but I don't think it'd be too difficult. Skullminder 999 asks, what is the hardest mod you've ever made? The Stampede Strike was definitely the most difficult integration I've done so far. Bryce Harper, other than Skittles and orange soda, what is your favorite kind of junk/delicious food? Root beer and string cheese. You can write that down. Joshua Craig again asks, how is that Gears of War build coming along? Well, I haven't touched it since the first video, other than to move it around my shop repeatedly. I do want to start getting back into that one again because it's gonna be pretty. Noah Johnson, what type of electric pump is on Ire? I haven't the foggiest idea. The King, how long did it take you to make your full armor set? Well, if you're talking about my medieval armor, I tinkered with it off and on for a couple of years before I finally got it well designed and well fitted. And it still has work to do. If you're talking about my Nerf armor, I've tinkered with it for a couple of years off and on before I got it to where I wanted it, and it still needs some tinkering. Tony Merritt, do you prefer spring, flywheel, or air-powered Nerf blasters? I like all. I just want to know your preference. I like them all too, and that's why when my HVZ loadout includes all of them. I've got two flywheels as my secondaries, my strifes. Ire is obviously a Springer with an air blaster built into her. I have a hammer shot, which is spring powered, a double strike, which is spring powered, and various shoulder cannons. I have flywheel shoulder cannons, Springer shoulder cannons, and air powered shoulder cannons. So depends on my mood, and then I usually have a spring powered shotgun. If it's going to be a crazy mission, I'll also have a secondary primary, a backup primary, which is my Alpha Trooper, which I generally don't end up using, but I have on occasion, gotten to the last stand of an HVZ and there's somebody standing there with a Maverick and you're like, you are going to get us all killed. Here, use this. And I give them my Alpha Trooper, so. Logan, have you ever thought of making a flywheel mag-fed Doominator? Yeah, actually, I have thought of it. Got it! Ben Bretz. This is a very serious question, like probably the most serious of them all. If you and Wacom had a Nerf battle, and you had to calculate the chances of winning by the amount of gear, how many guns, and the speed of how you and the darts you shoot go, who would win? Also, out of all the Nerf tubers, who is the one who helped you the most? Well, the first question, in a duel between me and Wacom, my money would probably be on Wacom with one of his Boomco blasters, because he's absolutely lethal with those things. The YouTuber who's helped me the most, probably Wacom. The only reason I have a YouTube channel is because of him. LazGamer4468 asks, are you married? No. I was nearly married once. There was a woman that I had every intention of marrying. We'd picked out rings and were planning to elope to France. Fortunately, it didn't work out, so here I am. Chuto asks, do you have any tips for getting so many subs on your channel so quickly? Yes. Have an absolutely amazing loadout and go to a Nerf war where another famous YouTuber is there and get them to do a shout out video for you. My channel, I have no doubt, blew up the way it did because I started with 750 subscribers before I'd posted anything, and I already, the videos that Walcom did of me sent huge amounts of traffic my way. So yeah, that's the trick, is get a jump start and then have lots and lots of really good content. Chaotic X Cody XX asks, how big is your shop? That's a good question. My shop is approximately 18 feet by 19 feet. Megabytes 456. Here's a question. If the Rapid Strike or Elite Hyperfire were out at the time you started to build Ire, would you still have used a Stampede? Yes. Richard Chronic. Oh, Q&A. What is your favorite non-Nerf blaster? The Sentinel. Mr. Peanut Butter Octopus. What is the best noodle? Rotini. But only when said like a Jawa. Rotini! Mini Trixie. How did you get your name? Like, did you go to Xavier? Is Xavier your real name? No, Xavier is not my real name. Xavier the name goes back to my freshman year in high school in French class. We had to pick a French name to be our name for the class, and then by, later on in the class, toward, second or third year French, we were only allowed to speak French, and we were only allowed to call each other by our French names. And I'd always liked the name Xavier, partly because of the X-Men, but also because it had an X in it, which made it interesting and exotic, and anything with an X in the name is cool. The French pronunciation is actually Xavier, and I have friends now who have known me for 16 years. They know my real name and they still call me Zav. Some people are like, yes, I know your real name. I'm not calling you that. You're Xavier, and you're just going to have to deal with that. So I have then, when I got into medieval recreation, I decided to carry on that name, and I became captain.xavier.commissions, a French privateer who went around the world going, hi, my country sucks, can I fight for yours? And I've just carried on using that persona for pretty much everything. So I use Captain Xavier for Elite Dangerous, I use Captain Xavier for HVZ, I use it for LARPs, I use it for just about everything at this point. I use it for my YouTube channel. So that's where that name came from. Mr. Peanut Butter Octopus again asks, 10-shot strong arm or stockade? Probably the stockade with 130s in it, because it's semi-automatic, which I like to be able to fire 2 guns at the same time. Jones Kid 002 again, hey Captain, silly question, what is your favorite candy? Also, what is your favorite flavor of that candy? Original Twix, for religious reasons. Captain Gaming Rex. Are you an engineer? Because you look like you know what you're doing in any Nerf gun. Technically, I'm a fully qualified software engineer. I'm not a mechanical engineer, and I'm definitely not an electrical engineer. I look so confident because I do a lot of research before I actually start anything. And because I'm really good at things. Liam Epp. I am a 19th century style blacksmith, and I would appreciate some advice on how to make pieces of armor such as gauntlets. The hardest part about making any kind of armor, especially metal armor, is the patterns. Finding the right patterns, finding good patterns, is by far the most difficult, and especially with armor, because plate armor has to be fitted to the person you're making it for. You cannot make general purpose one suit fits all armor. It just doesn't work that way. I've seen people who borrowed my armor for an event, and they got far worse injuries from the armor not fitting correctly than they did from their opponent hitting him with an axe. So the trick is to get the patterns, and there's lots of different ways to do that. There are some resources online. You can also look at pictures from museums and try to figure them out yourself. and sizing it is going to be the hard part. Always cut things too big, because you can cut down a piece of metal, but it's really hard to add steel back on after you've cut it. Don't be in a hurry. It takes a lot of hammering to make armor. It also takes a lot of time to clean it. Rivets are your friend and your enemy, because rivets don't come out. And that's the good thing and the bad thing. You can, before you put rivets in, you can use bolts or Chicago screws, which will give you an idea of what the articulations are going to be like. Gauntlets are very, very complicated because, they're very articulated. Fingered gauntlets are insanely complicated. Clamshell gauntlets less so. There's lots and lots of videos out there. Eric Dubé is my favorite YouTube armorer. I highly recommend looking him up. The Cow Gaming. How do you make your armor? And just all armor, really. Well, kind of just covered that with a hammer. I have a set of metal shears that I cut the metal with. I also will sometimes use a scroll saw, to cut the pieces out, and then it's a lot of hammering, and occasionally drilling, and then more hammering, and lots of hammering. I haven't gotten into doing any kind of armoring that requires heat yet. You can actually do most plate armor cold, just by hitting it with a hammer a lot. It's a lot easier if you heat it up first, because then it bends easier. But you have to keep heating up the metal and so on and so forth, and I just haven't gotten to that stage yet. So, the Gallifreyan asks, are you the Juggernaut? I don't know about the Juggernaut, but you could probably argue that I'm a Juggernaut. Lord RZ Writer asks, will you ever do a stream? What is your favorite modded blaster that wasn't your own? Yes, I was actually in Wallcom's live stream yesterday, and we're planning on possibly trying to wire up my shop to do a live stream this coming Saturday. So look forward to that. My favorite modded blaster that wasn't my own, I'm still partial to the Hellhound, as I've mentioned. Gryffindor Mishlove, I have two questions. One silly and one serious. What is your favorite unmodified blaster in stock form? The Strife, we covered that. And does www.captain.xporn.com really exist? No, that was a joke. Streamline Nerf. Tech Target Eliminator, Night Finder, or Fire Strike. I love the Tech Target Eliminator because of the ergonomics and the aesthetics. I kind of agree with you. I like the Tech Target. It's also absurdly powerful when fully modded. Asher Petovich, have you ever played in a Nerf Ward with Lord Drac? No, I have never met Lord Drac. We are on more or less opposite ends of the country. I believe he is in Georgia and I'm in northern Washington. Nerf Infinian asks, where do you get your darts? Source price, amount, recommended, etc. Thanks. I get most of mine either from Amazon or directly from Hong Kong. I get FVJs. I like how they work in most blasters, especially springers like Ire. I get them about 1,000 at a time for $40. Optimus Voltron asks, what do you do for a living? I work for Dell. Ant 2, how do I grow a beard? Hair only grows on one half of my face. The right side or the left side? That's weird. Nerfing Preacher. How many Nerf blasters do you currently have, or maybe just an estimate? The last time I counted, I had about 150. And that was 3 years ago? 4 years ago? I gave a lot of those away, though. But I don't even have a close estimate. I do plan to do a full inventory as part of this whole shop reorganization, but that has not happened yet. Mike Moss. If you could nerfitize any fictional or non-fictional weapon, which weapon would you want to do? Either the German 88mm flak cannon or the German Tiger II tank. So, Sakul 2004 asks, how do vortex blasters work? Well, I've yet to actually open one up to tinker with. They are on my list. People keep asking about them for K26. As far as I know, vortex blasters use a torsion spring rather than a compression spring, so there is no way to put K26 in them, I don't think. But they're generally, it's a catapult that kind of flings it forward, kind of like an addle-addle. And then they're designed to put a little bit of spin on the discs so that they fly better. The Nitron, of course, is a flywheel blaster, so that's the only one that I know of that is like that. So, yeah. Shmashua. When will you open the commissions again? I don't know. Soviet Kitty. Where do you see your channel going in the future? I have no idea. I actually have no real intention or desire to try to make a living off my YouTube channel. This is all stuff that I would be doing anyway. I'm just now videotaping it and putting it on YouTube for the YouTube monies. So, I don't know. I will probably carry on with the way I'm doing it for now. I definitely want to do more active footage, you know, Nerf Wars, HVZ videos, that sort of thing. If I ever got invited to Toy Fair, I'd love to go, but I'm still distinctly small fries for that sort of event. I have been invited to a couple of fun events. The issue at this point is travel. I really can't afford to travel, and I really don't want to do a GoFundMe to send me somewhere, but we'll see. I haven't really thought that far ahead yet. Zargax. Captain, a question for the Q&A. What is a tip you have for modding electronic blasters? Learn to solder. Beyblade Hogs. Which one of your toes is your favorite? Well, despite being left-handed, I'm partial to my right big toe. For reasons that I'm not going to go into. The Shadowed One. What are the other features that you want to include in Ire? I want to include muzzle flash, which the man who made my ammo counter just contacted me out of the blue because he happened to come across my Ire video and I'd given him a shout out and he appreciated that. So he contacted me and let me know that there's actually already a circuit in the ammo counter to make an LED blink, which is magnificent. I just have to wire it up, and then it blinks with every trigger pull. Well, actually, it blinks with every decrement of the counter, which means it will stop blinking when the gun's out of ammo, hypothetically, which would be better than the way I was going to do it, which means it would have still blinked even when the gun was empty. Now it won't blink if the gun's empty, which is awesome. So, looking forward to getting Ire open and tinkering with that. Beast Gaming asks, do you play video games? Yes. My primary video game, as I've said, is Elite Dangerous. I also do still play Civ occasionally. Every once in a great while, my little sister and I will play Worms against each other. If I get really, really bored, I will still bust out Castle of the Winds or Temple Darkmoon and play one of those old games. So, yeah. Captain Teddy, why do you use IMRs and not LiPos? For convenience. IMRs fit in a AA holder, so you don't have to do a whole lot of extra rewiring. They're also a lot easier to maintain because you can just get a simple charger, whereas LiPos are considerably more complicated and slightly more dangerous. I have yet to get into serious flywheel modding, so I haven't really noticed the difference. The main flywheels that I use are my strifes that I'm using as my secondaries in HVZ, and once again, they don't need to be heavily modified. I do run 2 IMRs in them, but I haven't even upgraded the motors because it's HVZ. The zombies come to me. I don't need a lot of range, and I don't want them to hit too hard, or they won't let me use them in HVZ. So, but when I start building, my own war level, NIC level, full modded rapid strike, I will get into LiPo. There's also another big build that I'm doing that will also definitely require a LiPo. But for things like Ire and my SMG Stampede and my Strifle, I still run IMRs because they're just easy. Sissy the Master. Who was your inspiration to get into starting to mod Nerf? I think I would credit a man by the name of Mowgli, who was involved in the first HVZ that I was in. He was an amazing nerfer and especially HVZ player. He did parkour. He could, straight up walls. It was amazing. He was not a large fellow, so he could hide easily, and he was fast. As a joke, and well, partly seriously, we now measure stealth in Mowglis. That is our unit of measurement. And the question is, how many Mowglis could hide in a certain thing? A single blade of grass is 2 Mowglis. An empty room with no furniture and only one door is 1 Mowgli. Things like a bush is about 10 Mowglis. WSU, which is all urban and lots of bushes and lots of shrubs and staircases, and it's like 1,000 Mowglis at any given point. But he had a minimized, overvolted Stampede. He had the first Stampede pistol that I had seen, and I wanted one. I wanted one bad, but I didn't want to cut up ire, so it wasn't until I finally got a second Stampede that I finally got to make my SMG Stampede, and I did something that he hadn't done, which was I made it modular. I added the stock and barrel mounts. It wasn't something that he was interested in because he wanted the smallest gun he could get because he wanted it to be stealthy. So, yeah, I credit Mowgli for getting me into Nerf modding. Orc at War 98. I am thinking of doing a Maverick under-barrel knife like some types of revolvers have built-in knives, so do I do that? Are you asking if you should put a bayonet on your Maverick? Absolutely. That would be fantastic. Andrew Hibbets. Would you ever get a 3D printer? Absolutely I want a 3D printer. It's on the top of my tools to buy when I have the extra money. For now, I've got a friend who's got 2 of them, who is awesome enough to print me out stuff if I ask really nicely. L. Sanders. Have been here since that fateful Wallcom video showcasing your insanity. Yes, you most certainly need a squire to handle your heavy loadout. I subbed to this channel before it was officially Captain Xavier, before you decided to do the whole rebranding thing. Awesome to see you grow. Here's my question. And it isn't even Nerf related. Have you considered doing any gaming related videos? I've seen your gaming setup, and I for one would love to see you live stream. Yes, I have actually considered doing pretty much since we first got into it. When we first started playing, I had 4 or 5 guys from my private security company who all played, and we actually would, when Wings came out, when the expansion Wings came out, we would fly in Wings with all of our ships, and we would do, the full military discipline, call signs, commands, all of the radio discipline while we did bounty hunting. And it was just so much fun, and I really think a lot of people would actually enjoy to watch it. But we just haven't ever gotten around to it. And now that I have a YouTube channel and have finally gotten really, really settled, that is something that I am considering doing. At some point. It's just time. Time is the issue. Gamma Prism. Question. When are you going to claim your free paint job from Tarantula Den Studios? Obviously, take your time and decide. And to the family of the letter sender, we wish you the best and hope for the best. I have no memory of being offered a free paint job from Tarantula Den Studios, and now I feel like a schmuck. Reach out to me via my commission email and remind me what that's all about, because that sounds awesome. My question is, would sending you a box of springs be helpful? Yes, I will gladly accept any and all materials that anybody wanted to send me of any variety, because you never know what I'll end up using them for. How long did it take to bring Ire to the current state of perfection? I started building Ire, I first got her in the spring of 2012, and I'm still working on her. So, 5 years? That was Braden Duplessis. Duplessis? Also an awesome name. Gwinchi T asks, favorite color? Black. The blood doesn't show. Emo, looking fun. Are you straight? If not, what is your orientation? Yes, I am straight. Ryu Akito. Question. What is your favorite pre-elite Nerf blaster, first stock, and then best for modifications? Stampede and Stampede. Brian Kersey. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Well, obviously, a woodchuck would chuck all the wood a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Lego Lane plays them video games. 20,000. Congrats, Captain. I have several questions. Pick your favorite. When did you originally get into Nerf? Spring of 2012. Do you think Nerf is better than Airsoft? If so, why? How about paintball? I need reasons to tell more of my friends to get into it without them shutting it down because it's dumb or childish. Well, any friend who thinks that something you find to be fun is dumb or childish is a poor friend, and you should get rid of them. I don't think any of them is really better than any of the rest. They're all very, very enjoyable. They all have their pluses. They all have their minuses. I prefer Nerf, obviously, for a variety of reasons. One, I can find dozens of Nerf blasters at Goodwill, and I've never found an airsoft or a paintball gun at Goodwill. I like being able to reuse the ammunition. I can buy 1,000 rounds and have them last me 4 years. That's nice. You can Nerf anywhere. I can go to any public park and Nerf. You can't do that with either paintball or airsoft. I don't like my my hobbies to hurt much, which is odd coming from a guy who lets people swing metal axes at his head. But that's why I wear 16 gauge full Gothic plate. I like that Nerf is kid friendly, oddly enough, because it allows you to get kids into it. I like that the startup cost is way, way less. You can go to Goodwill and buy a Nerf gun for $2, go to Walmart and buy some darts for $5, and you're good to go. You can't do that with airsoft or paintball. I like the mod potential. Yes, you can do modifications to airsoft guns and paintball guns, but nothing on the scale that people do with airsoft gun or with Nerf as far as integrations and, all of that lunacy. There's also, I like HVZ. That's what I first got into. There really is nothing on that scale that I've seen for airsoft or paintball of a week and a half long game that just keeps going. I have seen some amazing airsoft battles where they went to an abandoned industrial park, and they had buildings and it looked like a map from Call of Duty, and that's fantastic. And I've heard of milsim that are weekend-long, full immersion recreations of things like the Battle of the Bulge or the Battle of the Somme, or and those are something that you could do with airsoft much better than I think you could do with Nerf, just because of ranges. But Nerf is fun. It's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, you're doing it wrong. Next question. What is your favorite video game? Currently, Elite Dangerous. Previously, TIE Fighter. Favorite Lego set? The Black Seas Barracuda. I actually own 2 of them now. It's a set that I wanted all of my childhood, and it wasn't until middle school that I was finally able to buy it when Lego quite wonderfully re-released it. And I snatched it up, and it made me so happy. The Son of Death Grimm Jr. I have a question to ask. What kind of mercenary were you, if you are okay with me asking? My dad was a mercenary too, and I was planning on getting into the business as well. I started out as a mercenary in a medieval recreation group, so I wasn't a real mercenary. I helped. People would pay me to fight on their side in our medieval recreation wars. I later formed a crew of mercenaries, a whole bunch of the other fighters in the group. The person who was in charge gave a very disheartening speech, and I was afraid that half the fighters were going to walk away and never come back. So we decided to form a loose coalition of mercenaries. Nothing really truly binding. We created a pirate code because my character was a pirate or a privateer. So it was we started out as pirates and then eventually morphed into a more respectable mercenary company. We ended up putting 2 emperors on the thrones at one point or another, and were awarded the Imperial Seal of Excellence, which is really hard to get, and we've gotten it twice. We've since stepped away from that for various reasons. We all went off and got real jobs and grew up and all of that. I'd love to get back into it someday. But we eventually actually incorporated. We created an LLC called MDLM Security Group, and that's what we do a lot of our, you would consider mercenary work, private security work, the occasional forced eviction of a crackhead, land security for a friend who had somebody who was illegally logging on his land, site security for construction sites, site security for stores, that sort of thing, event security for like concerts and drag shows, that sort of thing. We did briefly consider going true mercenary and hiring ourselves out to be security on oil tankers, leaving the Middle East to protect against Somali pirates, that sort of thing. That ended up not happening because, once again, we kind of scattered into the wind and couldn't get enough of our guys together at one time. Yeah, we also do a lot of military reenactment for education purposes. We do several military history classes for a community college. We do the military reenactment for several Ren fairs every year. We go and we do their pike blocks for Elizabethan type stuff. So we have a huge variety of stuff, which is the neat thing about an LLC. Is you can really do whatever you want with it. Ethan L337. Ethan Leet. Two-part question. One, what is your favorite Lego set? Black Seas Barracuda. Have you ever mentioned, as you've mentioned in another video, that you are an amateur numismatist? What is your most valuable coin? I have never actually looked up the value of any of the coins I have. I suspect the most valuable coin I have is a Liberty dollar. I also have a Liberty dime. I have steel pennies. I think I've got an Indian head, or yeah, a Buffalo nickel, Indian head pennies, steel pennies. I don't have a whole lot of super rare ones. I would love to find a 1943 copper penny someday. That would be lovely. I've got lots of wheatback pennies, but I don't have the 43 in copper. I've got it in steel, of course. Trapped in the Matrix. Do you have, or you had, other loadouts? Yes, actually. I do have a light loadout that I'm working on making a little bit better. I haven't decided what vest I want to use yet. I want one of the ones that buckles up the front rather than the side. I will probably get a Condor one. I have just used the lighter plate carriers we have rather than my full Defender plate carrier. It just has 3 mag pouches in the front, and that's pretty much it. And I ran an Alpha Trooper and a hammer shot and a couple of magazines with that loadout, just for a light scout loadout. We also have, because we do a lot of different roles for HVZ, we don't just play the Black Knights, which is the full black tack professional zombie hunter loadout. They occasionally have us play bad guys, so I do have a non-matching set that's an OD green bulletproof vest and an old Vietnam era web gear and, you know, khakis and yeah. So yeah, I'm working on a light loadout because my current loadout is, as we discovered in my weighing video, 60 pounds when it's fully loaded. So I'd like to get something a little bit lighter. I have bad knees and a bad back, so I don't do much running on a good day, but I'd like to be able to at least try. So we'll look into that. Jake Tilbury, do you watch anime? If so, what anime is your favorite? I have watched anime. I haven't watched any new ones in a while. I was a big fan of Trigun, and I'm sure there's others that I've watched, but I can't think of any of them right now. Walcom is a big fan. He's recommended a couple that I do need to look into. Cage Munich, at Captain Xavier, my question is, if you integrate a Jolt into a Titan, how long will it take John to drive from Houston, Texas to the Shire if the wind is blowing east at 45 chromosomes while the hypotenuse of a rectangle and the value of x is potatoes? Apparently and it's possessive potatoes, so the value of x belongs to potatoes. Well, regardless of the number of chromosomes, it is going to take him approximately 3 hours and 41 minutes to drive from Houston to the Shire, given traffic. Trapped in the Matrix again asks, how many people do you usually get at your mod parties? The group that we currently have that come to my mod parties, I believe we've got 8 altogether. Me, Walcom, the curator, John, Jake, Brett, Dylan, and Buddy. So yeah, 8. There's 8 guys that usually show up. They usually don't show up all at the same time, and some have to leave, and some come in later, and yeah. So originally there just was not enough room in this shop for that. The whole shop reorganization will hopefully help that. We will find out Saturday. Manly Mouse, what is your favorite sidearm? The Strife. Tyler S., what is the best strategy to get Nerf blasters? Generally exchanging money for them is what I've found to be the best. Goodwill is where I get, like I said, most of mine. You can also, if you keep a sharp eye on sales online, you can sometimes get some fairly good blasters for really cheap. So keep that in mind. The Ninja King. Cap, how do you afford all these blasters? P.S. Please let me know if you don't have any way to get new... Oh, please let me know. I don't have any way to get new blasters. Well, I have a job. That helps. And now I've got this YouTube channel, which is pretty much now self-sustaining my Nerf hobby. I try to put all of the money that I get from YouTube back into the channel, buying equipment, buying parts, buying, the tables for my shop, the cameras, all of that stuff. The Goodwill runs that I do are all funded by my YouTube ad money, so that's kind of how I wanted this to go. It's nice because it has saved me a lot of money, and I can do things now that I definitely couldn't have done before. So Goodwill is where I get my Nerf. Any thrift, you will occasionally find stuff. Craigslist has Nerf. eBay. Aiden Snake asks, what is your rarest, most expensive blaster, not counting unique mods such as IRE or homemades? I really don't have any super rare blasters. Definitely nothing like the Curator has. I've got a couple of secret shots. I do have an Elite Raven, and that goes for a pretty penny. But I don't have anything like Ultimators or Supermaxes or the Crossbow, any of those super rare ones. So we'll see. You never know what Goodwill's going to find. Jedi Knight 129, you said in an earlier Q&A that you work in-out, if I remember rightly, so my question is this: where did you pick up the tech tool work skills you show in your videos? Metal fab, jewelry, armor, tack gear, and you're so relaxed in the shop it looks like you've done it professionally. Kind of covered that previously. Most of my skills are actually self-taught. I didn't take any mechanical engineering classes in college or any of that. The vast majority of it is either from me just tinkering or asking people who had the skills. A man named Jim Combs is the one who taught me most of my leatherwork skills. My armoring was all self-taught, watching videos on YouTube, reading books, just tinkering with a hammer. Same with jewelry. Looked at videos, looked at pictures, tested things, tried things. Yeah, I've never done any of it professionally. Professionally, I do tech support, which, is a form of engineering. There's lots of tinkering involved, so just the way I work. And the final question from Stelina L. What is it like being the biggest putz ever? Well, Strudel, you would know, having grown up with me your entire life, being the biggest putz ever is pretty freaking awesome. For those of you wondering, Stelina L is my youngest sister. All right, that's it. I've run out of questions. Yeah, there you have it. Look forward to more videos this week. I'm gonna have the K26 episode this week. You're all gonna love it. You've all been asking for it. Hopefully we're going to be live streaming the mod party on Saturday. I have a new IRES attachment video that I want to do as soon as it stops raining, which may not be for a couple of months because I live in the Seattle area. But I'm hoping to get that done. I'm coming up on the last 2 commissions that I may, now that the shop is put together, I'll be able to finish them, which means I will finally be able to start taking more, as well as working on Jomo stuff. So exciting stuff coming down the road. Looking forward to all of that. So, once again, comments, suggestions, ideas, leave them down in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.